Hello and welcome to the Intermittent Fasting Gems with Jen podcast. I'm your host, Jen, a middle-aged Michigan mama, wife, and teacher who in 2021 stumbled upon this crazy cool thing called intermittent fasting. And before I knew it, I'd lost 46 pounds in 4 months and gained an incredible lifestyle filled with complete food freedom. If you're hungry for unique, no-nonsense fasting tips that actually work, you're in the right place. So whether you're walking the dog, folding that last load of laundry, or cruising to your 9 to 5, let's start fasting our way to freedom together. Finding a fasting method that works just right for you can be a little tricky, and quite honestly, it often takes some patience and a little bit of trial and error. When I first heard about intermittent fasting, I'll admit, I was pretty clueless about it. I'd heard that it could help with weight loss and was also told about these two so-called magical intermittent fasting numbers, 16 and 8. But that was it. That is literally all I knew about intermittent fasting. Now, the 16-8 method is definitely the most talked about method in relation to intermittent fasting. But after doing my research and digging for some answers, I quickly discovered that intermittent fasting offered so much more than just one way of doing things. So let's jump in and talk about 7 of the most popular intermittent fasting methods out there. And since 16-8 is the most popular and well-known fasting method, it probably makes the most sense to go ahead and start there. So fasting method number 1, the 16-8 method. This type of fasting method does indeed involve a fasting period of 16 hours every day and an eating period that falls into an 8-hour window. This is by far the most popular and well-known intermittent fasting schedule. Some people who fast using this method eat their 3 meals a day during this 8-hour period of time, and the remaining 16 hours of the day is considered their fasting window of time where they abstain from eating or consuming any calories. And as I mentioned before, I originally thought that this method was the sole option for fasting, since it was the only method I had heard about. I needed to lose weight. So when I first started intermittent fasting, I began following this 16-8 fasting schedule. I was fasting 16 hours each day, patiently waiting for the fat to just magically melt off of my very chubby 45-year-old body. And, nope. Unfortunately, this method did not work too well for me. However, many people, my husband included, lose weight and reap many of the benefits of fasting using this method. That just wasn't the case for me. The numbers 16 and 8 did not turn out to be my magical numbers. So for me, I knew I needed to try something else, which brings us to fasting method number 2, the 18-6 method. This intermittent fasting method is a specific fasting schedule where you have a daily eating window of 6 hours followed by 18 hours of fasting. During the 6-hour window of eating, you consume all of your meals and snacks for the day. Most people can fit 2 meals into this time schedule. The idea is that this extended fasting period helps your body burn stored fat for energy. Many people find raging success with this method because when it comes to weight loss, the 18-hour intermittent fast has gained attention as an extremely effective approach. Studies have shown that fat burning typically begins after approximately 12 hours of being in the fasted state. However, fat burning really escalates between 16 and 24 hours, with the power hour being hour number 18. And I know for me, once I started fasting for 18 plus hours, my weight loss results really started to take off. Fasting method number 3, OMAD. This intermittent fasting method, often referred to as OMAD, stands for one meal a day. It involves fasting all day and then eating one larger meal a day and possibly a snack or a healthy dessert, usually within about a 1 to 4 hour period. Sometimes OMAD gets lumped into what's called the 24 method, or you also might hear it referred to as the warrior diet. Again, it's about finding what works best for you. For me, I found my absolute sweet spot with the OMAD method. Once I made the switch to OMAD, I personally began to see weight loss results very, very quickly. It's considered one of the more strict fasting methods, but I seriously love it, and that is because it truly makes my body feel at its best. OMAD is the main method I use to lose 46 pounds in 4 months, and it's also the method that I currently use mainly to maintain my weight loss. Fasting method number 4, 2MAD. OMAD and 2MAD are similar approaches to time-restricted eating. However, instead of OMAD or just one meal a day, the term 2MAD stands for 2 meals a day. So the 2MAD method allows for 2 main, sometimes fairly large, meals within the eating window, instead of the traditional 3 meals a day most people eat all day long. Since intermittent fasting is so flexible, the 2 main meals can either be breakfast and lunch, or you may start with lunch being your first meal of the day, followed by dinner several hours later as your second meal. Whatever works best for you. Sometimes 2MAD gets lumped into being basically the same thing as the 16-8 or the 18-6 method. And that is because realistically, one could fit 2 meals into a 6-hour or an 8-hour time period each day. Although I follow the OMAD schedule throughout most of the week, I almost always take a break and follow the 2MAD or 16-8 method on Sundays, and I do this for a few different reasons. One reason being, I go to my parents' house every Sunday and enjoy opening my eating window earlier so that I can eat with my family throughout the day. And not only do I have a much longer eating window on Sunday, I also indulge in fun foods that I normally wouldn't eat during the week. The other reason I like to do this, 2MAD on Sundays and have a longer eating window is because it mixes up my fasting schedule and it keeps my body guessing. I don't get stuck doing the same fasting routine over and over. I've found that it really helps keep me satisfied. It reduces my cravings, and also it really helps to rev up my body's fat burning abilities, keeping my metabolism moving right along. Fasting method number 5 is the 5-2 method. This intermittent fasting method involves 2 full fasting days with 5 days of regular eating during the week. On the 2 days that you are fasting, you can completely fast, or you can do what's called a modified fast. And a modified fast is where you limit your calories and consume no more than 400 to 500 calories for the day. I'm not a huge fan of this method. However, many people report having great success with it. I don't do this method too often. However, I have used the 5-2 method for a week or two following the return from a vacation where I did some serious indulging, just as you should on vacation. And then after following the 5-2 schedule, immediately after getting back from my vacation, I was able to get back to my pre-vacation weight very, very quickly. I do, however, have an important 5-2 tip for you. So should you decide to give this method a try, you should avoid full fasting on 2 consecutive days. And this is because it has the potential to make you more susceptible to experiencing negative side effects like extreme hunger, irritability, and sometimes even dizziness and fatigue. Fasting method number 6, the 4-3 method. This intermittent fasting method is very similar to the 5-2 method, but it's even more restrictive as it involves 3 full days of fasting and 4 days of regular eating. And of course, just like the 5-2 method, on the 3 days that you are fasting, you can completely fast with 0 calories, or you can do a modified fast, limiting your calorie intake to 400 to 500 calories for the day. If I'm being completely honest with you, which I promise I always will be, but I have actually never tried this method. To me, this method feels way too restrictive. I like to eat way too much for this plan to work for me. However, should you decide to give this method a try, please proceed with caution. And finally, fasting method number 7 is the ADF method. And ADF stands for alternate day fasting. And as the name suggests, this fasting method requires you to fast on alternate days or every other day. The alternate day fasting method is becoming more and more popular because so many people are truly having such great weight loss success with this method. I know that many people inside of my intermittent fasting Facebook support group, they absolutely love this method and have seen amazing results. I like to think of this method as the teeter-totter or the up-down method. On down days, you are either completely fasting or you may choose to opt for a slightly less intense fast. This is often referred to as, I don't really know if people pronounce it MADF, that would be kind of weird, but it's MADF, or what you would say modified alternate day fast, where you do not completely fast on your fasting days. Instead, you restrict your calorie intake to just 500 calories. And then on your non-fasting days or your up days, you eat or refeed for several hours, usually 6 to 8 hours. This is a difficult method to completely explain because there are so many different versions and variations. Personally, I've had very good success with using different variations of this method from time to time. I don't use it often, but from time to time, I found that when I would hit a weight loss stall or a plateau, switching to the alternate day fasting method almost always helped me to break through my stall and get the scale moving in the right direction again. All right, so there you have it, 7 of the most popular intermittent fasting methods. And as I mentioned before, at the beginning of this episode, intermittent fasting really is all about trial and error and finding out what works best for your body, lifestyle, schedule, and personal circumstances. However, if you're brand new to fasting and you're looking for a suggestion as to where to start, I highly recommend starting with the 16-8 method. It's really kind of perfect for beginners. Give it a few weeks and see how you do. Then, if you feel like you want or need to start bumping up your fasting window, just take things slow. I've found a strategy that seems to work pretty well for people, and that is to start with a 16-8 schedule. Then extend your fasting window by 30 minutes every 3 to 4 days. Repeat this process until you reach the fasting window that you are most comfortable with. All right, let's recap before we wrap up today. 7 of the most popular intermittent fasting methods are: number 1, the 16-8 method, which involves 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of eating each day. Method number 2 is the 18-6 method, which consists of 18 hours of fasting and 6 hours of eating each day. Number 3 is my personal favorite, OMAD, which stands for 1 meal a day. This is where you choose 1 main meal per day to enjoy and maybe a few snacks to fit into a 1 to 4 hour eating window. Method number 4 is 2MAD, which stands for 2 meals a day. Not quite as restrictive as OMAD. With 2MAD, you can choose to eat breakfast and lunch and skip dinner, or to eat lunch and dinner and skip breakfast. Method number 5 is the 5-2 method, which is 5 days of regular eating and 2 full days of fasting. Number 6 is the 4-3 method, consisting of 4 days of regular eating and 3 full days of fasting. And finally, method number 7 is ADF, which stands for alternate day fasting, where you do just that. You eat one day and then you fast the next. Thank you so much for listening and for choosing to spend part of your day with me today. Be sure to tune into my next episode, where we will hear from Laura from Pennsylvania, who has experienced incredible health and weight loss success with the OMAD fasting method. Have a truly blessed and beautiful day, my fasting friends. Bye-bye. Hey, thank you so much for choosing to spend part of your day listening to this episode of the Intermittent Fasting Gems with Jen podcast. If you think these tips could help a friend or a family member, please consider sharing this episode with them. And if you really enjoyed the show, taking a minute or two to leave a positive review would be so appreciated. Tune in for new 15 to 25-minute episodes released on the 10th, 20th, and 30th of each month. Episodes will feature solo shows filled with IF hacks that have worked for me, as well as episodes where I get to chat with fun folks of all ages who've experienced incredible success with intermittent fasting. If you have questions or want more unique intermittent fasting health and weight loss tips, tricks, and recipes, please visit my website and blog at sowhatifwithjen.com. Finally, we'd love to welcome you into our free intermittent fasting Facebook support group, So What If with Jen. Find all of these links in the show notes below. And as always, I hope you spend your day loving without fear and laughing until your cheeks hurt.